Audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I didn't know that I was muted. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Uh, I feel very nervous when Nirmala introduces me like this because she's a part of my family from the past 15 years. And when family members introduce you so well, you feel very, very nervous. A few months back, my wife introduced me very well in front of her friends, and the next day she asked for gold jewelry. You don't know what's going to happen. And also, I remember one more incident where I was a part of the national conference of the Institute of Company Secretaries. It was in Kolkata. I was there for 4 days as an academician representing my college, Jain University, and I was also moderator for some events. And my son was 7 years old at that particular point of time. And he sent me a message, and I didn't know whether the message was praising me or it was telling me something else. The message of my son read, "You are the best daddy in my whole family." And I was very confused. I thought I was the only daddy in his whole family. My trip was for 4 days. I came back in 2 days. Thank God nothing had happened. After that, I rarely go out. And thanks to COVID, I don't even have to go out now, correct? So it's really heartening, Nirmala, for that wonderful introduction. Nirmala asked me to speak on Lead Without a Title today. And let me start off with our Independence Day. And I want to narrate an incident which touched me quite a bit. It was January 2nd, 2004. And when it was January 2nd, 2004, there was a young lieutenant from the Indian Army. His name was Lieutenant Triveni Singh. He was moving back from Kargil to his hometown, Pathankot in Punjab, for a very special occasion. And the train had stopped at Jammu railway station, and he got down from the carriage. And at that time, he received a call. And the call was from the General Officer Commanding, and the General Officer Commanding, Mr. Rajinder Singh, immediately told him, "Triveni Singh, you're at the Jammu railway station and there is an emergency. There has been an attack by two militants in that very railway station. I think so, it's in the next platform. Please immediately take action." Lieutenant Triveni Singh, without even batting an eyelid, heard gunshots which are happening in the next platform. He immediately ran across the rail tracks. He went to the next platform, and when he went there, he found a slew of dead bodies. 7 people had been massacred, and the militants were firing indiscriminately. 2 Lashkar-e-Toiba militants were firing indiscriminately. 3 railway security personnel, 2 police personnel, 2 civilians had already been martyred. And Triveni Singh, without even thinking, opened his attache, took out the pistol which he was carrying as an army personnel, and mustering all the courage he had, shot at one of the militants. The militant's head was shattered. One militant was dead. But the second militant, after seeing this, got alerted and he lobbed a grenade at Triveni Singh. The grenade found its mark. Triveni Singh's legs were severed in a pool of blood and burning flesh. He was left with only 2 stumps. He fell on the ground. The militant didn't stop. He fired and his arm was severed. And the militant thought that that was the end of Triveni Singh. But Triveni Singh mustered all the courage he had, picked out the pistol from his pocket, shot at the militant, and the militant was killed. Hundreds of lives were saved. But what was more interesting was Triveni Singh was almost dead, but he did 2 things before he died. With all the strength he had, he picked out a mobile phone from his pocket and he called up the General Officer Commanding and he said, "Sir, task accomplished." Cut the call, and then with whatever strength he had, with those 2 stumps of flesh, as his legs were severed, he pulled himself up and he saluted the Indian national flag at the Jammu railway station and he collapsed dead. Triveni Singh was going for a very special occasion to his hometown Pathankot. It was his marriage. but his marriage pyre turned out to be his funeral fire. And I want to tell you, let's salute all those unsung heroes who have laid down their life for our country. And today's Independence Day, I didn't want to leave this opportunity because there were 13 lakh martyrs from 1757 to 1947. All those brave soldiers, all those brave security personnel who give up their souls so that we can get security, who give up their life so that we can get liberty. They give up their families so that we can get freedom. We can never ever repay them back. And those are people who lead without a title. They live without a title, but they do so much for the country. Talking about lead without a title, I have identified three. Actually, this word lead without a title has been popularized by Robin Sharma, the famous motivational guru. And but actually, the origin of the word lead without a title comes from a book written by a very famous leadership psychologist. His name is James MacGregor Burns. And he wrote a book called Transformational Leadership. And in that same book, he also referred to transformational leadership, and he said transformational leadership is nothing but leading without a title. In fact, there is an Institute of Transformational Leadership in Atlanta in the USA, which is named after James MacGregor Burns. And he says the simplest definition of leadership and leading without a title is only this: whenever a human being gets a moment and he has to choose between being an example or being a warning to somebody, and when he chooses to be an example to somebody rather than being a warning, he is leading without a title. Every moment of your life, you have a choice. Will my actions serve as an example to somebody, or will it serve as a warning to somebody? You're going on the road. Let's say the COVID is lifted and now the traffic has come back on Ernakulam roads, and there is somebody who crosses your road and he almost brushes your car. You have a chance. Either you can smile at him and say, be careful next time, or you can shout at him and hurl bad words. When you smile and wave at him, there might be somebody seeing you on the road who will say, wow, we can behave like this also on the road. But if you choose to scream and shout and use all bad words, you are serving as a warning. Somebody might be seeing you there and might be saying, if a professional like him can scream and shout, why not me? And every moment you get a chance to either serve as a warning or as an example. And when you choose to be an example to somebody in life, it is leading without a title. There's a very famous saying which says that dance like nobody is watching, but your character should be such that everybody is watching. So your character, are you an example or are you a warning to somebody else in life? And how do you serve as an example? How do you lead without a title? In the next 20 minutes or 15, 20 minutes which I have, let me give you 3 C's of leading without a title. The first C is called concern. Can you show a little bit of concern to somebody? There's this very famous spiritual teacher called Dada Vaswani. He used to always quote this. He used to always say, there's a beautiful saying which goes, did you see him on the road and did you leave him with the load? Did you see him on the road? Did you leave him with the load? And if you show a little concern of lifting the load, you have made the world a better place and you're leading without a title. I'll tell you an example of mine. I lost my eyesight in my 8th standard, as she was telling. She always hums to me because I can't see her, correct? So I lost my eyesight during my 8th standard. And when I lost my eyesight in my 8th standard, it was a very dark period. I used to get very, very upset. It was because I was a very good cricket player. I used to bowl fast. I was in the middle school team. I was an amazing student, always the first rank student, never less than 98%, voracious reader. And suddenly I got a disease called macular degeneration where my rods and cones of the eyes started deteriorating. And within around 4 or 5 months, 80% of my eyesight was gone. And I was very upset. And it was natural. No, I used to keep blaming, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And one day I was sitting in my class and it was the tea break, 10:40 to 11:10. And at 11 o'clock, my biology teacher, and incidentally, he was from Kerala, My biology teacher, his name was Mr. Alexander Nainen. He came running into class. He immediately put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Rajdeep, you know what? I said, what, sir? He said, you know, Rajdeep, I read a poem yesterday and I want to read this out to you. I said, okay, sir. I was anyway feeling down because there were children playing outside. I could hear the cricket sounds and I was sitting in class doing nothing. And he read out that poem that day to me with so much intensity, with so much love, that half my disgust, half my dejection, half my desperation was lifted that day itself. The poem goes like this. It was a beautiful poem. I made him read it out at least 3 times so that I could memorize it. The poem goes like this. I learn as the years roll by and leave the past behind, that much I had counted as sorrows proved that God was kind, that many a rose I longed for had a thorn of pain, that many a rugged bypath led to fields of ripened grain. The clouds that cover the sunshine can never banish the sun. Earth shines brighter when the weary rain is done. We must stand in the darkest shadows to see the brightest light, for it's from life's worst obstacles that comes the greatest strength to fight. For it's from life's worst obstacles that comes the greatest strength to fight. And I made him repeat this poem again because I thought the poem was just written for me. The clouds that cover the sunshine can never banish the sun. Might be my eyes are covered with darkness, but my personality can shine. Every rugged bypath leads to fields of ripened grain. Might be it's difficult now, but it will lead to something beautiful. Earth shines brighter when the weary rain is done. Might be the rain and gloom is going on, but when the rain is over, it will wash away the earth and it will make it shine brighter. And I thought he showed so much concern. He was leading without a title. He was not my English literature teacher, for God's sake. He was my biology teacher. As an English literature teacher, I can understand somebody reading out a poem to you, but he was my biology teacher. And he had no business to read this out to me. But even then he showed concern. And I think so, if you can show a little concern today to somebody around you, you're leading without a title. Just open your heart a little bit to somebody today. Just a small act of concern can go a long way in actually making you lead without a title. The second C which I want to talk to you about is connect and empathize. There is a beautiful saying, when you connect and empathize, you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. They say, empathy and connection is all about putting yourselves in the other person's shoes. But I want to tell you one thing. You can never put yourself in the other person's shoes unless you remove your own shoes, unless you remove your judgments, unless you remove your ideas about what you are thinking of that other person. So unless you have that clarity of what I am, if you have already made a prejudice about somebody, it becomes very difficult for you to empathize with somebody else. And empathy is not something great. Just doing small acts of empathy. You're walking on the road and it's raining. Can you just put your umbrella for somebody else on the road? That is empathy. Your umbrella can accommodate 2 people. You're on the lift, you're going to your 5th floor or 6th floor, and your lift is about to close and there's a man running. You'll say, okay, let him miss the lift, let him wait for 5 minutes. Can you press the lift for a little longer so that that one person can come into the lift? That is showing small acts of empathy, small acts of connection. There was this very famous true story which was published in a magazine several years back, which was very interesting. There was this man Ramachandra. He was sitting in the sofa of his house in Chennai, and it was a Saturday morning. The cool air was coming. He was sipping his cup of coffee, and suddenly he heard his wife screaming at his 7-year-old daughter, Lakshmi, who was called Putta. And she started screaming, Putta, why are you not eating your breakfast? Please eat your breakfast quickly. And this boy, this girl was crying and she didn't want to eat that curd rice which was there being offered to her. This lady screamed at her husband, look at your daughter, all the time she's refusing to eat the breakfast. This husband, Ramachandra, came over there and immediately went up to the girl and said, Putta, please eat your curd rice. Eat 2 spoons at least, otherwise Amma will get angry. The girl, with lots of tears in her eyes, she had big eyes, she had a long hair, she said, Appa, I will eat the entire bowl of curd rice, but can you do one small thing? If I eat this bowl of curd rice, will you get me whatever I want? Ramachandra was helpless. He immediately told you, okay, okay, don't worry, Putta, I'll get whatever you want. That girl, with lot of torture, ate that entire bowl of curd rice. After that, she came and she ran and she sat on her father's lap and she said, Appa, you told me, no, you'll give me whatever I want. Ramachandra said, yeah, Putta, I'll give you whatever you want, but you know one thing, don't ask for something expensive because, you know, Appa can't afford it. She said, no, Appa, I just want to cut my hair. He said, why do you want to cut your hair? Your hair is so long, so beautiful, Putta. Why do you want to cut it? She said, no, Appa, I don't want to cut it. I want to shave my head. Ramachandra was completely shocked. He thought as if he had put his hand in a 220-volt socket. His wife was there, Parvati. She screamed, inauspicious. How can a girl cut her hair and shave it? His mother-in-law was there. She said, Ushu, completely unsacred. How can she shave her head? This girl started crying. She said, Appa, you only told me the story of Raja Harishchandra. You only told me that you have to be the truth, whatever you tell. And Ramachandra took that decision that if I don't cut her hair or shave her head today, it will be a bad precedent for her future. She will not keep her word. She will not follow the truth. So the next day, he got her head shaved with lot of resistance from the house. On Monday, Lakshmi, that 7-year-old girl, was walking. He left her to the school. She was wearing a blue uniform. She was carrying a backpack. She was having a tiffin in her hand and water bottle. And he saw her standing near the gate of the school. He was wondering, he was telling, Putta, go inside, go inside. Why are you standing over here? And she continued standing near the gate. And immediately a car stood behind him. And there was another boy who came out from the car. And he also was shaved. He also was wearing the blue uniform. He was also having a backpack. He was also carrying that water bottle. And he also ran and he went near Lakshmi and they both started laughing and they started walking towards class. Ramachandra was a little puzzled. What is this? Is there a rule in the school that they have to change their entire uniform and they have to have a blue uniform and they have to shave their head? As he was about to get into the car, a lady got down from the other car and she came towards him and she told him, is Lakshmi your daughter? Ramachandra told, yes, but don't you think it's very strange that your son and my daughter both have shaved their head and they're walking towards class? That lady started sobbing. She said, you know, your daughter is an angel. My son Anirudh is suffering from leukemia butt cancer from the past 5 months. And he can't go to school because he feels shy. All the children tease him because he's a bald head. Your daughter Lakshmi came to my house the previous week, and she told my son Anirudh, don't worry, you come to school, I'll shave my head. Your daughter has made the supreme sacrifice for my son. Ramachandra ran towards his daughter who was about to enter class. He caught her hand and he knelt down and he said, Putta, you have to give me a promise. In this life, you are born as my daughter, but in the next life, you should be born as my mother because you have taught me what empathy and connection is all about. And all that is just leading. She was a small girl. And a true story from Chennai, just because she was showing empathy. She was a small 7-8-year-old girl who was leading without a title. The last C is called contribution. Everyone needs to make a contribution and leave a legacy in this world. And everyone can make a contribution in some way. Can you contribute in some way or the other? Because nobody will remember you for your selfish motives. Everybody remembers you for what you have contributed. I remember I had attended a teacher's training program several years back when I started my teaching career around 25 years back. And there was this trainer who had come to our training, and there were 150 teachers over there. And he asked us, he told us, I want you all to write your family tree. Please write down the name of your 4 grandparents. So we wrote our names. Now he told, okay, can you go a little further? Your 4 grandparents had 2 parents each, so you'll have 8 great-grandparents. Can you write the names of the 8 great-grandparents? And none of us could write even the names of 3 or 4 great-grandparents. And we told, no, sir, we don't remember our great-grandparents' name. He told, see, without your great-grandparents, you won't be alive. One teacher got up and told, sir, how do we remember a name great-grandparents, sir? That was 150 years back. Another lady stood up and said, what's the use, sir? God knows what they've done for us also. And our trainer told us something very interesting. He said, you know, you don't remember your great grandparents not because of the time, because you can remember Mahatma Gandhi 150 years back. You can remember Prophet Muhammad 1500 years back. You can remember Jesus Christ 1000, 2000 years back. But you cannot remember your great grandparents because they did not contribute to this earth at all. And that was such a big insight for me. He said, if you live for yourself, everybody forgets you. But if you live for someone else, nobody can forget you. And I said, small contribution. And you know, when you contribute, don't have that expectation that that person will give me something in return. Because when I teach in college, all these students come up to me, sir, I helped my friend so much, and then nothing, he doesn't look at me. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The laws of the universe are very exact. Whatever you give will come back. It may not come back from the same person, but it will definitely come back. You have helped your friend. He might not be talking to you today, but be sure when you need help, there will be some hand which will come and wipe your tears. You have helped a student, or you have helped your sister when she was in distress, and she may not be even talking to you now, but there will be somebody who will come and hold your hand when you are in distress. And the problem where we get caught up is we contribute and we expect the contribution back from the same person. It will never come back from the same person. If it comes back, you're lucky. But if it will come back, that's a guarantee. Whether it comes back from the same person is not a guarantee. But the laws of the universe are such that contribution will always result in a counter contribution to you. It will come back to you in some way or the other. In fact, sometimes it may come back to you immediately. I'll just tell you this. I have a friend in Jharkhand. His name is Ranjan Jha. He's a very famous doctor there and a very excellent doctor. Okay. And he carries two phones. One is personal number and one is emergency number, where anybody in Ranchi, in Jharkhand, can call him up whenever they faced an emergency. He's put his phone number, Ranjan Jha, on all trees across Ranchi, on all walls, parapets. And he's considered a god in Ranchi. And one day he was in his house and he got an emergency call on his emergency number. And there was a lady who was sobbing. She said, sir, my son is choking. He can't breathe. Please come. He asked, where's the house? She gave him the address. Immediately he took his car and he started moving. He didn't know the place exactly. So he asked a person on the road, where is this place? He said, sir, if you go straight left and right, you'll reach that place. He said, how much time will it take? He said, it will take around 10-12 minutes, sir. He said, is there any shortcut? He said, yes, sir, there's one Kacha road from here. If you go from this road, it will take only 4 minutes or 5 minutes. He said, okay, I'll go through the Kacha road. He went through the Kacha road, but as he was through the half of the way, he found that that road was completely dug up. There was a big crater on that road and he could not go further. He started panicking, but he saw one man with a road roller, the JCB, who was putting sand, stones, etc. This side, that side. He asked that man, please put some sand stones on this crater, cover it up. I want to go through this road. There's an emergency. And the man told, sir, how will I do it? He told, no, you do it, please. That man put the sand stones on the crater. Ranjan Jha accelerated his car, went past, reached the house within 5 minutes. He went up to the lady. That boy was choking because he had swallowed a 5 rupee coin. He immediately turned him upside down, removed that coin, and the boy was saved. If he would have gone even 4 or 5 minutes late, the boy's windpipe would have got blocked and he would have choked to death. Ranjan Jha was pleased. He came back. The next day he was passing by the road and he saw that the construction is still going on. He said, I must thank that man who helped me, that road roller, because without him putting the sand and stones, nothing would have happened. So he went towards that area and he saw that road roller man running towards him. That road roller man ran towards him and he prostrated at him. He said, what's wrong with you? I came to thank you. Why are you prostrating? He said, sir, you don't know you saved my son's life yesterday. I put the sand and stones not for anybody else, sir. It was for my own son. My wife told me that day, the next day, my mobile was not reachable because I was in the JCB. And she told me, she tried contacting me, but she called you up and you saved my life. So sometimes life will give you back, sometimes at the same time, but it may not give you back at the same time, but that doesn't stop you from contributing. So just remember this. If you want to lead without a title, can you show a little concern? Can you contribute a little bit? And overall, can you just connect and empathize with somebody? And you'll find that you will all become great leaders and do some make a small difference in the few people whom you meet around your life. Thank you so much.